First of all, I want to tell you that we have exceeded the population on the population front from China in 2022 23. As the Chinese National Bureau of Statistics of China data showed that India has crossed the population 1.428 billion as compared to China 1.41 billion. So I wanted to study the world population and the graphs of the world population according to continent wise. So the first minimum population, that is Australia, 2.57 crore people only living in Australia. And African continent, 121.61 crore people are living in Africa. 121 crore population. And American continent total population 100 crore. 100 total population, adding both continents, North and South America. European population only 75 crore, adding all 27 countries plus UK, 75 crore. And if you look at particularly Asia, I have divided four components of Asia. South Asia, 25% of total population of the world living in South Asia, like Pakistan, India, Bhutan, Nepal, and Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, and etc., Maldives, etc., whatever they are, little islands, nations, they have little population. But the larger population, if you add the SAARC nations, SAARC, SAARC nations, South Asian Association of Cooperation, these nations contribute 25% of the total population of the world. So it's a very huge population. And the Central Asia contributes only 1% of the total population of the world. 1% of the total population of the world. Means 77 million people. The Central Asia has 5 countries: Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan. These are 5 countries that contribute 1% of the total population of the world. 77 million population they have. Eastern Asia, particularly Eastern Asia, has adding with Chinese population 21.53% of total population. East Asia contribute approximately 22% of the world population. And Southeast Asia contribute 8.58% of total world population. So if you look at in a larger analysis, adding the components of India, China, and the Asian population, particularly Asia contributes most, I would say that approximately 40-50% population is centered into this particular zone called Southeast Asia and East Asia. If you draw the circle, there is a maximum concentration of population in a very limited area. The China's one child policy they adopted in 1980s onwards, and their population rapidly declined. That's good news. Otherwise, they would have definitely 1.6 crore. But they, according to their policy change in 1980s, they they applied the brake on population rapid growth. That's a very good news. Because why is it is good news? Because we need population per capita resource. What we can contribute for the development and upliftment and facilitation to these peoples. Most of the poverty is concentrated in these areas because they don't have lack of resources to serve these countries. We need more and more resources. So we have limitations of resources, and populations are more. They would definitely would live in poverty. And I want to put forth data of India, which is India proclaiming that India will become a developed nation. Mr. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, current Prime Minister of India, is proclaiming always a Amrit Kal kind of thing, 25% of. And Indians are very excited about this type of thing. But that is not going to happen. India could not become a developed nation because of it has a large and huge population which is have very much less resources, and they would not have any kind of good prospects. And I want to tell you the statistics. The Indian government have calculated where they will reach at 2047. According to their calculation, the Indians per capita income at 2047 would be $15,000. Would you think that this is going to translate into the developed nation? I think not going to happen. And these wealth is very important thing is that these wealth is concentrated only some parts of peoples in India. Concentration of wealth is very high. Mr. Adani contributes in Indian population 70%. I'm sorry, very sorry. India 8% of national GDP. Adani and Ambani, if both components add, their national contribution in national wealth is very high, and billionaires, whatever they have in India, they have concentration of wealth. According to the many reports, I would say that their contribution, 1% of population have 50% of national asset. 1% has 10% of national asset, and 10% of the population have 70% national asset, and left all or 30% contribution on national income. So if you look at the very skewness of incomes, so I would suppose that I am not arguing that India would become a developed nation or not, but it is definitely not going to have eradication of total poverty. I was reading a report about the India, and India is an agricultural nation, since independence. 78% of our population was 68% of population was in agriculture when India became independent 47. Afterwards, now these days, their contribution is 58%. Agricultural and allied sectors, 58%. So very much less population, reduced. So most of the population are involved into agricultural systems. And important thing is that 80%, 85% of India's farmers are less than 2 hectare land owner. Very important thing. And they are dependent on that agricultural asset. So how will they generate income? They are dependent on that land, so their income would be very less. So they would continue to be in the same stage. India would become definitely a developed nation with some pockets of land, centers of economic centers like mega cities, etc. Delhi, Mumbai, vagera, vagera. But this is not going to translate into overall development of the country. 50-60% of population would be isolated from economic prosperity because of they are not going to generate income. Their dependence of income, agriculture, they have only 2 hectares of land, less than 2 hectares, smaller marginal farmers. So that is going to be dependent on the government and government policies, whatever government thrown out through their DBT program, direct benefit transfer program, 2,000 rupees to in 3 months or 4 months to their bank's account. That is not going to translate into anything. So they would depend on the government, and they are going to suffer. So India is going to suffer. What kind of policies government taking to upliftment? Government took forward to reform the agricultural land reform, agriculture. 3 laws were passed before 1 year ago. Government farmers came out and they protested to draw out these resources and these laws. So government pulled out the laws. I'm not going to argue that these laws was very revolutionary and they were going to change the entire system of agriculture. It's not. I'm not supporting that. That was a very draconian laws. But I want to say that we want service sector contribution more and industrial sector contribution more. Only then we will uplift our population from the poverty line to a prosperous state. And we are doing it. The GDP contribution of service sector is 50+%. I think the 54%. And industrial sector contribution is 28% and etc. Whatever the 18% agriculture sector. So we need industrial sector more to become 35%. We have target set out up to that thing that 2030. We have made our commitment to increase the industrial in contribution in GDP to 35%. That's good news. And we have to suck the maximum population into the industrial sector. And we are doing it, yes. This is only the prospect, the future prospect that India has. And India shall be. Otherwise, we are going to dependent on the agricultural resources, then population will suffer. So yes, we are investing a lot in education system, and our population is mostly involved into the education or girls' child's enrollment in schools 98%. That is very good news because they are going to translate into human resource development. And the male is, of course, a dominating factor in India and around the world, not only India. But the women which were lacking are now getting opportunity to showcase their talent. And we are developing human resource in the form of women's empowerment. That is very good for the nation. Thank you very much. And I wanted to share this because of when population is going to concentrate in these areas, in particular Asia centric, and economic opportunity, economic eruption is going to happen in this zone as well. So the concentration of world politics, because economy follow the politics and politics follow the economy. So the center of politics is also going to concentrate on the China and India centric. That is very good. And we want prosperous, happy and safe nation for all nations, and territorial respects and whatever the laws, United Nations Security Council or United Nations General Assembly, United Nations, we all have 193 countries adopted, and we must have to respect these all human rights, etc. And we condemn the Ukraine war, and we don't support it. We only support peace and resolution in diplomatic ways. Whatever happening, I wanted to add this note into last, because now we are the responsible nation. Whatever acts we have to do, our government is doing and our people is doing, we must have to contribute according to our constitution, article 51, into the world peace, contribute to world peace and respect international laws. Thank you very much for your cooperation. If you like my initiative, you have to subscribe and share my channel, because if I'm sharing the right knowledge, it must have to go to the people. Spread, I mean. Thank you very much.